Hello. As you think about nonfiction books, and remember, nonfiction books are books that are real, about real things. One of my favorite types of nonfiction books are biographies. Now, biographies don't always have the same text features as other nonfiction books, but they're very important because they teach us about famous and worthy people. This is a biography that is relatively new. It's called Before She Was Harriet, and it's about Harriet Tubman. It's written by Lessa Klein Ransom, and it's illustrated by her husband, James Ransom. So it's kind of neat that this husband and wife team wrote and illustrated this book together. It won the Coretta Scott King Award, and that's right down here, this award here. So we've talked about the Caldecott Medal before. This is another type of medal. Coretta Scott King was Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife, and I know you've learned about him. This was his wife. She's no longer alive either, but she created this award, and the award honors books, and it says on here that talk about non-violent social change. So I know that's a big phrase, and you're thinking, what's non-violent social change? Non-violent means doing something without fighting. And social change means making a difference. So if you want to make the world better, to make things right in the world, and do it in a non-violent way without fighting or being physical, that's what this award honors, that Coretta Scott King created. And so this book won that award because Harriet Tubman was a very, very special, important lady in American history. We know her because she helped many slaves escape, and she also helped women advance their rights in the United States as well. So this book is Before She Was Harriet. Here she sits, an old woman, tired and worn, her legs stiff, her back achy. But before wrinkles formed and her eyes failed, before she reached her twilight years, she could walk for miles and see clearly under a sky lit only with stars. Before she was an old woman, she was a suffragist, a voice for women who had none in marriages, in courts, in voting booths. Before her voice became soft and raspy, it was loud and angry, rising above injustice. So she was trying to help women get more power of their own, become independent, okay, in marriage, in voting. So she was important in doing that. Before she was a suffragist, she was General Tubman, rising out of the fog, armed with courage, strong in the face of rebels and planters and overseers as they watch fields burn and bridges fall and 700 slaves stop chopping and start running to a woman who ferried them to freedom on the Combahee River turned River Jordan. So this talks about how she's helping slaves escape from slavery. Before she was General Tubman, she was a Union spy carrying secrets across battlefields to soldiers fighting in the Civil War for President Lincoln to end slavery. She's a very brave woman. Before she was a Union spy, she was a nurse, caring for those hit with bullets and hatred and fear, tending to them with bandages and words in the bloodied dirt of Southern soil. Before she was a nurse, she was Aunt Harriet, daughter of Ben and Rit, who helped her parents flee their master and find their way through woods and streams to the safety of Canada and a new home in the North. Before she was Aunt Harriet, she was Moses, a conductor on an underground railroad with no trains and no tracks, just passengers traveling to freedom up north through swamps, past slave catchers, across rivers, under the cover of night. seeking the promised land for her people, led by dreams and God and faith, a wisp of a woman with the courage of a lion. Before she was Moses, she was Minty of Maryland, of one slave owner and then others who worked her, punished her with lashes, broke her back, but not her spirit. Before she was Minty, she was Araminta, a young girl taught by her father to read the woods and the stars at night, readying for the day. She'd leave behind slavery along with her name and pick a new one, Harriet. And remember, her days as a suffragist, as a general, as a spy, as a nurse, as Aunt Harriet, as Moses, as a conductor, as Minty, as Araminta, who dreamed of living long enough to one day be old, stiff and achy, tired and worn and wrinkled and free. And that's the end. One of the things that I really like about this story and about Harriet Tubman is that when she becomes free, she chooses her own name to honor her freedom, and she becomes Harriet. Now, I think she also has a beautiful given name, the name her parents gave her, which was Araminta, and Minty was her nickname. But she changes it to honor her freedom, and that's when she becomes Harriet. So I want you to think about 3 things you learned about Harriet Tubman from this book. And I also want you to think about how you can honor her through thinking about nonviolent change, just like we talked about at the beginning. How can you make a difference in the world in a peaceful way? That's always something good to think about. And it's a great way to honor Harriet Tubman, who definitely is a heroine of mine.